Hello everyone. Today I want to go over a game from one of our lesser known grandmasters, Grandmaster Pascal Charbonneau with the white pieces going against Grandmaster Viswanathan Anand with the black pieces. Now, at the time this game was played in 2006, Anand was still in its close to his peak form. He was actually rated 2803 at the time. All right, and he wasn't world champion at this time, but as you know, he would become world champion after defeating Vladimir Kramnik shortly after this. Um, so this was 2006 again. Pascal Charbonneau is rated 2510, so there's approximately a 300 point rating difference. But Pascal has the white pieces and Anand with the black pieces. So the game started off E4, C5. Knight f3 from Charbonneau, e6, d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and knight c6. Now this is called the Taimanov variation, namesake of Grandmaster Mark Taimanov, who unfortunately is most famous for losing a match to Bobby Fischer 6-0 in the Candidates World Championship match. But the Taimanov has a very solid reputation here. Pascal plays knight b5 with the obvious idea of tucking the knight in at d6, and there's all kind of theory around there where actually I believe it's the Lowenthal variation where you actually allow the knight to come in there and you take, and try to go into this endgame. That's for another topic for another day. So d6 is what's normally played at top levels. And now c4. So now you have this Maroczy bind type setup, controlling the square d5 to inhibit the push by black, and also give white some time to mount up pressure against this pawn and to argue that it's weak. Okay. Anand continues with the pressure against the center. Now a6, knight e3, bishop e7, bishop e2, castle, castle, b6, and now bishop f4. Okay. Now normally bishop e3 is a little more common here, but again, one of the basic and simple ideas here by putting this pressure here is to make it harder for black to play this very important break here, d5. All right, that's one of the major themes in this opening. Anytime you're playing against a Maroczy bind, you either want to get b5 in or d5. If black can achieve these breaks comfortably without penalty, he'll have a good game, because white's entire game is set up just to stop this break. So if black gets it in, usually the tables will turn in his favor here. Okay. Now continued. Bishop b7, queen d2, thematic play, knight e5, and now f3. Notice the revealed attack against the e-pawn, so now you have the knight and bishop against the e-pawn, so f3. Of course, this bishop is a victim in the process of all of this because it becomes bad, but you can't have everything, right? Queen c7, so now we have pressure here. Rook ac1, rook ac8, and now simply rook fd1. Of course, queen b8. Okay, queen just comes back, and now king h1, a typical move, just getting the king off this long diagonal. You see this a lot in the Sicilian, especially if the f pawn has been pushed to f4 in a lot of lines. The king will just avoid the circumstances where there might be an embarrassing check later on, followed by win of material when the king is caught on g1. So standard move here. Rook comes out to e8, and now bishop f1, and now Anand makes this move king h8. Now you might say, wow, that's a strange move. Is Anand trying to make his get his king to some type of safer position than it already is? No, there's no f pawn removed. There's no access to the king, so the king's not just simply copying white, or nor is Anand just making a rookie mistake and just wasting time with this move. He actually has an aggressive plan in mind. And it's an old plan, but a goodie. If you see the game, my memory is failing me. There's a game by Fischer in the Havana Olympiad. Check that out. 1966. So just go through Fischer's games until you find one that looks like this game. So Fischer's idea is to push this pawn, okay, aggressively. In order to achieve that, he has to play rook g8. So this, my friends, is the purpose of moving the king over to the h file so he can get this rook here, and then play g5, g4, ripping open the king side, and then of course he had the bishop justified on this diagonal as everything starts to break down. Okay, so let's see how it continued. Charbonneau played bishop e3, simply attacking this pawn right here. So the bishop went back. And now bishop g1. Anand goes for it. Rook g8. And now queen e3, again pressuring this pawn. Alright. Knight e to d7. Protecting here. And now knight a b1. So it's time to get this knight off the rim and get it into a more useful position. Anand starts the plan g5 and knight d2. Where's this knight going? This knight eventually wants to get to a more useful square, perhaps f1, and then maybe down the road to e3, but it is a slow plan. Anand plays bishop d8. Now, what happens if he just continued on with the plan? If he played g4 here, if he played the move g4 here, well, white can kind of throw a monkey wrench in the plans by just by bypassing this pawn with f4. Okay, and then if black tries to get too ambitious and play g3, for instance, he can't play h3, but I mean, why? He can just take here also. And although it looks intimidating, at the end of the day, chess is a rather concrete game here. And so black will still have to prove his point even in this position. But instead of even playing h takes g3, which of course is risky, you can just bypass the pawn there too. And again, it's hard for black to kind of prove his argument in this position. So Anand just played it close to the vest there, played bishop d8. b4 from Pascal. And now bishop c7. Okay. Now queen e1 from Charbonneau. And now rook to g6. bishop came to d3. And now knight e5 from Anand. The bishop drops to e2. And now rook c to g8. Pascal played bishop e3, and it looks like he's just shuffling his pieces around. But what he's doing, he's maintaining a very solid position. Okay, and he's kind of trying to edge black or provoke black into making, you know, some suspicious moves, maybe perhaps advance prematurely in the position. Okay. Rook h6. Another idea here is this move knight h5, and then perhaps, you know, with this idea, of course, of hopping on f4 here. Then if g3, taking that away, maybe knight f6 here, and then this diagonal is a little weakened here. Then perhaps king g1, and then the battle continues. But Anand played rook h6 in the game, and finally this knight gets to its destination on f1. Okay, so what I want to point out here is that all of the black pieces are heavily concentrated on the king side, as you can see in typical Vichy fashion. I mean, this is like prime Vichy, like having the way his pieces are set up, ready to explode on the king side. All right. However, at the same time, white is ready to break through on the queen side in a few more moves. So this is basically, all of this shuffling has been for white a consolidation, basically consolidation on this king side to make sure everything is protected. Okay, so Anand has built up a terrible force on the king side, but white is making sure everything's protected, very solid on the queen side. And then when black's attack has no steam in it, then he's gonna just pursue the weaknesses on the black queen side. So after knight f1, rook g6 was played. All right. We spoke about this break earlier. Is d5 possible here? And here it just does not work. Black would love to be able to play, but here it does not work. So for example, c takes d5, and let's say you try to take back. E takes d5, knight takes, e takes, and black's position is just looking very suspect at this point. f4 is coming. So Anand continues with rook g6, queen d2 from Charbonneau, the double attack on this pawn. And now queen g8 is pretty much forced at this point to protect this pawn, because remember, it can't really advance. However, the downside of this move is that all of black's pieces are committed to the king side, right? And so the center and queen side are kind of left, you know, a little bit unattended to. So what this means is that if black's king side attack doesn't work, he's going to be in trouble because he's overly committed on the king side. Of course, that's fantastic if your attack is gonna make it through. However, it's a big commitment. If it doesn't work, it's like he's just gonna be left hanging on the center and the queen side, and this was what Charbonneau is banking on. So a4, bishop b7. Okay, and notice that now you see Anand playing on the queen side. So he's kind of making a move where he has to kind of defend the position, which is suspicious because what is that telling white? That's telling white that there might be something wrong in the position, right? I mean, white is ready for g4 here, but again, and again, not falling for this idea of bishop takes and getting greedy, but just simply f4 here, right? And the best black can probably do is try to muddy up the waters with a move like knight f3, but it's not really good enough here for black. I mean, if you play this move and just simply bishop takes f3, and notice how beautifully the bishops are able to protect the around the king. So bishop b7, and now with that move, Charbonneau just plays c5, and notice how he stopped the attack on the king side, and now he's going in with this counter attack on the other side of the board. D takes c5, B takes e5, B takes, and now rook b1 attacking the bishop. Of course, he could have just snatched the pawn. Bishop c6. Now he took the pawn. Bishop takes c5, and now Anand says, "Hey, it's time to go for it," and plays g4. Here is Charbonneau's trump that he's depending on, is the idea of just bypassing the pawn, not allowing the file to be open. Here, Anand played g4. Which turns out to be a mistake in this position. Of course, this pawn cannot capture because of the pin, and of course the knight cannot capture here either. However, there is a piece hanging, so the idea is, or the question that has to be asked is this move tactically sound for black? G4. Okay, so we're gonna find out right now. But actually, moving back, instead of g3, what could have better move for Anand would have just been to humbly accept the retreat here and play knight ed7. Okay, and then perhaps could continue bishop e3, or perhaps even bishop d6 here, challenging this bishop, forcing a trade. With some more attack on the queen side, and queen c8. And here you can see that white still has some initiative in the position. Black's attack is not really going anywhere, whereas white's attack is full of potential on the queen side. So Anand played this move g3, giving up a piece. And here is his idea here. F takes e5, knight takes e4, knight takes e4. All of this is forced. Of course, bishop takes. And now, this might have been a move that Anand perhaps overlooked in a position here. Is this move, bishop d3. Okay, this basically just stops the attack in its tracks. And it forces something that black doesn't want, which is the trading of material. Okay, so Anand just simply sacrifices the bishop, and this is a spooky looking attack, I won't lie here. But bishop takes g6, rook takes g6, and now something that we are taught in early stages of chess is giving back material. So knight g3 is played here. Really simple chess right here. Don't try to get greedy and play a move like queen f3 and stuff like that. I mean, it's possible, but you know, it gets messy. You know, he just played knight g3. You know, give some material back. Don't be greedy. You know, you're still up a rook here. So rook takes g3, And then now simply queen e4. And now what? Rook g4. And just very, very strong move by Pascal. Bishop e7 with the idea of just evening up the score with bishop f6. Devastating move. And here Anand resigned. Okay, so this was definitely a major upset. The idea here is, of course, if rook takes e4, then bishop f6 check, and it's going to be mate in 3. Because of queen g7, then simply rook b8, deflecting the bishop, right? Because rook b8 is going to be mate because the queen can't go back. So the bishop is deflected, and then rook d8. And as you can see on the screen there, it said mate. So that's why Anand resigned at bishop e7. So what to say? I mean, that has to be the highlight of Charbonneau's career, you know, at that point. I mean, beating a prime Anand, right, rated 300 points higher than him, right? Anand wasn't, you know, 80 years old or whatever like that. I mean, he beat Anand before he became world champion. So, you know, just great game by Pascal Charbonneau, and you know, I enjoyed you know, bringing to light some of the lesser players. I mean, we always go on YouTube and we look at games from Magnus Carlsen and Nakamura and Fabiano Caruana, all the top players, but there's a lot of good chess players that are they at the elite levels? No, they are not, but a lot of exciting games are played by them, and you know, I'm going to try to dig through the archives and find some of these games like this where you see these lesser known lights, you know, put out a little you know, immortal game every now and then. So to me, this is definitely Pascal's immortal, and it was fun showing it to you. So again, please like and subscribe to my channel. Please donate in the links below, and I will also put links to DVDs/books related to the opening that we seen on the board today, which is the Sicilian Taimanov. So with that, I'll see you guys on the next video.